Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my week one review. What a really good first week of football. And honestly, a lot of the games, or half of the games at least, that were super hyped up for this Saturday didn't end up being super good games of football. But like Texas, Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, they weren't really like the most enjoyable things ever. But then on the other side of things, you had plenty of super enjoyable, fun games. But without saying too much, let's get straight into this thing. A like, and subscribe, and help, a comment always helps. Let's go. First off, you start off with this one, and I feel like a lot of people are giving Arch a way too hard of a time right now. And not a lot of people are even saying anything about Julian Sain as well, who didn't really have that good of a game either. Neither of these teams had an offensive performance at all. Like neither of these teams performed well on offense whatsoever. But that's you know probably due to the fact that these teams have the best two defenses in the country. Ohio State actually had a much worse game offensively than Texas did. Texas had 336 yards of offense to Ohio State's 200. Oh, really quickly. This was my prediction. I said Ohio State would win this one. I honestly thought Texas would get out to a better start and Ohio State would have to climb their way back in slowly. There was just like minimal points whatsoever, and Ohio State pretty much led the whole time. So what I said about my prediction was both of these new quarterbacks are stepping into a super difficult game with extremely high expectations, and I didn't believe that either of them were going to perform super well. I didn't think either of them were going to do too good. Honestly, they performed better than I thought they would, especially Julian Sain. But, when you're surrounded by Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, who Jeremiah Smith had a catching problem, when you're surrounded by receivers like that, it's kind of hard to not be a good quarterback. But at the same time, you're up against Texas's defense, which has been a super solid, like top three defense these past couple seasons. It's always been their offense that has really struggled. The only time it wasn't really struggling was in I think that was the 23 national championship. That was when their offense was good, but they didn't make the national championship. That college football playoff series. That was their best offense, and since then they have completely fallen off the face of the planet. Now, I feel like people giving Julian Sain and mainly Arch Manning Heisman, like Heisman odds, basically saying Arch was going to be the Heisman, and he hadn't even played a full, like, actual game of college football against, like, a real team. That was what was getting me all riled up, and a lot of people expected him to just come out here and ball out like Peyton Manning or somebody. No. You got to give him time. All right, he hasn't played in this environment. He has now. Expect him to drastically improve from this point on. That's what I was trying to say in my video, and I kind of have a hard time getting things across because my mind, is all mumbo jumbo, and I want to say so many different things that I lose track of what I was saying. Really got to just like write down a script, but I go off the noggin. Yeah, I go off the noggin. And but yeah, Arch, he didn't really play too good. He's getting absolutely ripped apart on social media right now. And I now this looks good to me for Arch Manning, The expectations, you did not live up to the expectations, and quite frankly, nowhere near them. Doesn't mean you played super bad, but you were the chosen one. He was supposed to be this Heisman quarterback that was going to take Texas to the glory days. That did not look like it on Saturday. However, now everybody has turned their backs except for Texas fans and the slim believers out there, which there are still a decent amount of arch defenders. I think he will start to turn things around, but I don't think he's going to have a Heisman campaign season, and I don't think he's going to be able to get this team to the national championship and win. If anything is going to get them there, it's going to be their defense. And same thing with Ohio State. These teams have absolutely dominant defenses. Like, they are super, super talented defenses. It is going to be hard to move the ball against this team. The only difference, really, I mean, Texas led in every category of offense except for fourth down conversions. And that's why I think this game actually went in Ohio State's favor. There were some choices to go for fourth downs that did not make sense to me. Did not make sense to me when I was watching it. The first drive of the game, you get stopped on and get put down to a 4th and 1, and you go for it at your own 34, and you get it. Then you continue to start driving. You start driving down the field. You get the ball to the Ohio State 43, and you go for another 4th down. You're up against Ohio State's defense. They let you get a really risky 4th and 1 play. You try to go for it again. They are not going to let that happen twice. That right there was a huge blunder for me. But then what did Ohio State do? Thankfully, the very next drive, they went 4 and out at the Texas 49. But then Texas, getting this lovely jubbly 4th down conversion, they get stuck on a 4th and 6. Now they choose to punt it. It's like, what's the thought process here? I don't understand what the thought process is. You go on a drive and you try to go for 2 4th downs. You don't get it. But now Ohio State hands you your drive back last time, and now you're going to punt it away on their side of the field. It's like, so what happened to the mentality of going for it on 4th down 2 times in a row? Now you're going to punt it away. I say right there, you say, all right, we're being aggressive this game. Go for it. Like, your defense has just proved right there that they can 4 and out Ohio State's offense. Go for 4th and 6. Maybe try to drag him off sides. See what Arch is capable. Make a big throw. Get a pass interference or something. Steve Sarkisian is a great offensive mind. Why don't we go for the ball there? But they punt it, which is also in a form understandable, obviously. After a failed 4th down conversion, maybe now you want to play more passive, let Ohio State make the mistakes. I just feel like you want to play aggressive. You are up in the 4th down conversions. I don't understand why you suddenly just lay off the gas pedal. They punt it. Ohio State 6 plays, 17 yards. Punt, and then Texas 3 plays, 3 yards, punt. It was a really, really defensive game. But then to start the second quarter, Ohio State went 13 plays, 80 yards. They proved that they can go right down the field if they need to. Texas then goes 8 plays, 21 yards, including, I would assume, a 4th down conversion. I'm looking here. No, just a lot of 1-2 first down, 1-2 first down. Barely moved the ball. Same thing with Ohio State. Same thing with Texas, and then end of the half. Here was the drive, though. This was the really takeaway point. What I said earlier about being aggressive still stands, but this was where it's like, okay, you punted and you don't want to be aggressive anymore. I don't really understand why you lay off the gas pedal. You go 15 plays, 70 yards to pretty much open up the second half. Like, basically open up the second half. You are on the Ohio State 1-yard line. You could not punch in the touchdown. I say you take your 3. Make it 7-3. Take your damn 3. Like, I just don't understand why you don't take your 3 there. Yes, you put them on the 1-yard line, but it's Ohio State. You can almost entirely expect them to get out of that pickle and just at least punt it away, first off. Second off, your offense has not really been moving that much until this drive. Get some points on the board. Because if they would have taken this 3, they could have taken a 3 later in the game, which they ended up having to go for because of the limited time. And then when they scored a touchdown, could have gone for 2 and tied this thing up. Of course, you don't know that in the scenario, but I don't understand why coaches don't play like this. If it's early in the game, your first drive of the game gets put on a 4th and goal, you can go for it. You've got the rest of the game to make up for this mistake, but you're opening up the second half with points. That's That's a statement. A statement. Yes, they stopped you and held you to 3, but you're still putting points up on the board and getting yourself within reasonable and within taking this game. You could score a touchdown on the next drive. Obviously, your offense is capable. They get stopped. They get stopped on 4th and goal. They don't get it. Ohio State, exactly what exactly. They're going to get themselves out of this pickle. They just QB sneak for 1 yard, and then offsetting penalties, which would have been a safety, but offsetting penalties. 0-yard run, 6-yard run, punt the ball away, and then the interception for Arch Manning was not a good interception. That ended up pushing the momentum for Ohio State to get a 14-0 lead. And then again, Texas responds. 13 plays, 76 yards. They start moving the ball down the field, and we get to 4th and 3 at the Ohio State 9-yard line. If you would have taken your 3 earlier, you could take your 3 now. 1 touchdown game. Instead, they have to go for it because time is running thin, and they don't get it. Ohio State punt. Texas touchdown in 4 plays, 60 yards. Arch delivers on this drive. He, makes a good pass and gets things done. He gets a couple good passes and shows what he is capable of as a quarterback overall, but also the talent around him. Now, this game could potentially be tied or a 2-point game. Ohio State punt. Texas has to go for it on downs where they were at basically the 50-yard line. I don't really think this game was entirely on Arch Manning. Yes, those 4th down conversions are crucial. And you need to make those plays when they're there, especially on 4th and goal. But Ohio State did this last year to Penn State. They are completely and utterly capable of shutting any offense down in the country. Why don't you just take your 3 in such a competitive and low-scoring defensive game? Take your points when it is given to you. If you want to go, again, first quarter, first drive of the game, you go down 4th and goal, and you don't get it, you've got the rest of the game to make up for that mistake. We're in the second half now. You've got to take your points and get yourself back into this thing because Ohio State is not going to sit at 7 points for the rest of the game. They will score a touchdown or even a field goal and take this to a 2-possession game and feed off of your mistakes. And that's exactly what happened. My personal opinion is that Texas is actually the better football team here. It's just poor 4th down calls. Yeah, that's basically it. That's the only thing. It was poorly timed, and honestly, just the trend of college football to go for 4th downs recently has completely eliminated the thought of field goals. If they would have taken their 3 twice there, you would have made this 6-14, where you could have scored that Arch drive and maybe tied it with a 2-point conversion and made this somewhat reasonable. But instead, you're just constantly behind. Ohio State doesn't even have to sweat it because their defense is just constantly getting takeaway after takeaway. That's why Texas lost this game, in my opinion. I don't really think Arch had a super bad game. He really had a lot more drives than Ohio State did where he cooked and brought this team to scoring position. Also, Texas's running game was pretty good this game. But, yeah, I think Texas was the better football team here. I just think poor play calling, and they better learn from it. Because you can't – that was just, at least it's the first game of the year for Texas. Because, again, you have the rest of the season to make up for it. If this was the second to last game, you'd have some problems. You definitely have some problems. But it's the first game of the year. You got the rest of the season to learn from your mistakes. And Arch blames himself. Everybody blames Arch. I personally think those 4th down calls were dumb. I think they were dumb. And if it was Arch making those calls, which I highly doubt it was, then he needs to take responsibility. And of course, he will take responsibility and be mature about it. Because after all, the ball was in his hands and he could have made the play. But still, I just think you got to pick a path. You either got to be aggressive or you got to be passive. You can't play both. A lot of stuff was just blowing my mind by Texas. I was constantly questioning their choices while Ohio State was just playing football. They were just playing football and cruising to a victory. That's all. That's what it felt like. Was Ohio State was literally just like had their legs up and they were just coasting, while Texas was just slamming the gas and then slamming the brakes, and it's like they couldn't figure out how to move the car. They just couldn't do anything right. And I just think it was just bad coaching. I don't know. Syracuse versus Tennessee. I picked Syracuse to win this one. This was, I'm honestly really surprised mainly by Tennessee, how good their offense looked. Maybe Tennessee is actually a solid competitor in the SEC. I truly thought losing Nico was going to be like a devastating loss, but they've got this transfer quarterback from Appalachian State who looks really calm and compact back there. But the other takeaway, let me show you my prediction. I said Syracuse would win offensively, and now they basically reversed scores. But Tennessee dominated a bit more. Syracuse doesn't have a defense, which honestly, I didn't really account for that when I was making this prediction. I didn't really account for that. There was a lot of offense in this game, and Syracuse is still a team to watch out for on that offensive aspect, but you can't let a team rush for 250 yards, and Syracuse turned the ball over more times. Like, they could not stop Tennessee's run game. They couldn't stop them, even when they were trying to complete their super big comeback. That actually looked like it could be a possibility, They were down 38-14. And they started to bring it back. If they would have converted their 2-point conversions, they would have made it an 8-point game at some point, but they literally just couldn't stop Tennessee from running the ball. They couldn't hold them. And that's going to be a huge problem for Syracuse moving forward. Tennessee also, I do believe Syracuse is going to have a super good offense, but so actually, you know what? I'm not going to dock Tennessee any points. Overall, they just played absolutely better. They did have 7 penalties for 65 yards, but they overall had 500 yards of offense, and they didn't go for a single fourth down. They fumbled the ball once, but they didn't go for a single fourth down. They only allowed one mistake. If Syracuse wanted any shot at winning this game, they would have needed more mistakes from Tennessee. Tennessee did not give any. They did not give any. That's perfect football. That's how a good team plays. They get to host Georgia in 2 weeks. I think Tennessee might be cooking up something special, y'all. Syracuse, on the other hand, you let me down. But I do have Syracuse going like 6-6, which, their schedule's super difficult. So, yeah, they lost a lot of players. I just really like their head coach, and you get a good quarterback transfer from Notre Dame. I just thought they might be cooking up something underneath the eyes of the public. Wrong. Sort of wrong, sort of not. Like, they put up a good competition. It didn't really feel like they were ever out of the game until Tennessee scored that final touchdown to go up. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not 42. Wait, is it 42? It's 45. I'm sorry. I wrote that wrong. 26-45, y'all. I'm sorry. So yeah, good game though. Fun game to watch. Really fun. Alabama at FSU. I already talked about this in my video, my live reaction, but frigate, let's talk about it again. I said FSU would win 38-31 in overtime. I'm honestly going to stop doing this overtime prediction just in case I get I guess the score perfectly. If you were to place a bet, I at least assume you would not need to call whether it is overtime or not. I don't want to throw out overtime anymore and let's say Florida State wins 38-31, but it wasn't overtime and this just blow it up. This game looked like it was going to head. It was beelining for my prediction, but it halted. And Florida State won 31-17. And I already kind of talked about this. I would like to go into it better because I didn't really think I talked about how much Ty Simpson actually tried to carry this team. I think I talked down on Ty Simpson. I was like, how do you expect this guy to carry the Alabama offense? Ty Simpson is a dog. He is a good player, but the team around him was not playing good. Ryan Williams was barely a threat the entire game, considered to be a top 3 wide receiver in the country, top 2 receiver over Jordan Tyson, most people would say. He was like absent this game. That could be due to the fact that he was being double covered or he had a really good, Florida State's defense is just really good, but still, you got to put in more of a presence. And overall, Alabama's offense was really just absent. But Ty Simpson, dude, he was trying to single-handedly pull this team forward to a victory. He had a really good game for 17 points, 23 for 43, 2 touchdowns, and 254 yards. He did way better than Tommy Castellanos. Tommy Castellanos only went 9 for 14, 152 yards, but he also carried the ball a lot more, obviously. Florida State's style of offense is very weird. Very weird. Not what I was expecting. There's a lot of motions. There's a lot of jet sweeps. There's a lot of fakes. It's very difficult to read the offense as a defender. They're constantly moving around. You don't know where the ball is going to go. I feel like that severely contributed to Alabama's defense allowing 31 points. But I really wish Tommy Castellanos would have thrown the ball more. He did throw the ball really well. 9 for 14, 152 yards. He only threw 14 passes, and he's covering a football field and a half. That's really good. He also had 16 carries, 78 yards for a touchdown. He literally accounted for 230 yards, and he ran the ball more than he threw it. He was basically a running back. The running game also for Florida State was just completely taxing on Alabama. And it's just because there's so many motions, so many people to hand it off to. It's so difficult to read it, especially when you have people that are so shifty. You've got a big, bulky running back. You've got a quarterback who is extremely shifty. You've got the receiver on the jet sweep who is super fast. It's like you're constantly having to look out for things. It was really, really difficult for Alabama to pay attention to things. And then occasionally Florida State would let the deep ball fly and the defense would get caught with their pants down. And they just ripped them apart offensively. And that was literally all in the first half, basically. It was 17-7, and then out of the gates pretty much of the second half, they scored a touchdown. And then it kind of just went silent offensively. They were just milking the clock, taking their time. Alabama started to make a quote-unquote comeback, but then Florida State just, they just shut them down. I really think the star – no, never mind. The star of this team for Florida State is Tommy Castellanos and their offense. I was going to say the defense was actually what won them the game, but no. Their defense is super good, but their offense was just putting on too many points, forcing Alabama to make riskier decisions and play worse, which made it easier for their defense. I do think Florida State's offense was the better producer here, but definitely Florida State's defense is Florida State's defense was the thing last year. That was the only thing keeping games relatively competitive was their defense. Their offense was in the floor because DJ Uiagalelei was horrible. And the offense just sucked. That's why Florida State went 2-10. You have a new star quarterback at the helm leading an offense. You've got great players, new recruits, transfers, and stuff. Florida State is going to be a good team. I think they will go 10-2 in the conference. But honestly, there's another team. There's a couple other teams in the ACC, and I think ACC this year is the conference to beat. They went from, I think they were considered the worst conference last year. They're probably going to very quickly move to the best, in my opinion. But, it's week 1. Let's not over-exaggerate, but just a quick list. Clemson, Florida State, Miami. Those are 3 ACC teams right now that all look extremely good. Now, however, of course, Clemson obviously lost, but on the other side of things, you have Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, Louisville. Those teams all looked super good. It's going to be a very competitive conference, but I could definitely see the ACC skyrocketing up to either the second or the first best conference this year. LSU versus Clemson. Speak of the devil. I said Clemson would win this game, 33-27. I didn't really get to watch this game that much because it went into the ASU game, and once the ASU game turned on, I completely lost everything. Like, I was just watching the ASU game, which I don't know if you guys saw. It was a complete blackout on the game and a static radio, basically, for the entire third quarter. You have to pay $15 a month to watch ESPN Plus. They're going to shove this down our throat, whether we like it or not. And on the first game of football, can't even watch it. It's not even there. Unbelievable. Billion-dollar company. They make billions off of football. Can't even get a broadcast to work for the number 11 team in the country. Bullshit, if you ask me, but whatever. I was going to make a separate video on that. I was so damn mad, but I decided not to. Clemson, they definitely, or here's the final score. LSU came back, rallied, another low-scoring defensive game. Both of these teams have extremely good defenses. And, I mean, in terms of the Heisman competition, Garrett definitely had a better performance than Cade Klubnik just because of a touchdown, and then Klubnik had an interception, but both quarterbacks threw for 230 yards. Both quarterbacks threw for 230 yards. Klubnik had 1 yard on the floor. That's probably just because he got sacked a lot by Garrett actually had 2 yards. So Garrett wins the competition by 1 yard. And I don't really know who the better team is here. I would say LSU. I would honestly say LSU. Clemson's run game was non-existent. Both teams had a lot of penalties. LSU had more turnovers, regular turnovers. Clemson failed more fourth down conversions. But honestly, Clemson got up 10-3 in this game. They were up 10-3, and LSU was trying to lose this game, basically. Actually, I think LSU was the better team. They had the ball 3rd and 2 at the Clemson 12. They could have gone for a field goal, and they fumbled the ball, ended up going into halftime 3-10. And now Clemson did miss a 48-yard field goal, which hurts them. LSU scored a touchdown. Oh, LSU had a missed field goal. See, I don't really know what happened in the second half because once the second half, it was at like 6:30 is when it went to halftime. I went ahead and got in the shower and stuff, was getting ready for a big-time game. I was getting because I was all gross from the day from watching football before. I was like, I'm getting clean. I'm getting ready for this game. And I pretty much just wasn't able to watch the second half of this game whatsoever. LSU went up on Clemson early in the 4th. Clemson, moving the ball down the field. At the LSU 33, they go for a 4th and 5. See, take your 3. It's a 4-point game. Obviously, that wouldn't help you. But at least at the last drive of the game, 4th and 4, at the LSU 15, they could maybe, convert that or something and make this a winnable game. I don't know. This is actually, overall, just a completely balanced game. These teams are probably going to finish off as 2 of the best teams in the country. These teams definitely lived up to their rankings and to their hype. LSU football is officially back. They have a defense now. Clemson football is officially back. They have a super good defense and a somewhat an offense that needs to have some time, I would say. Both of these teams are really good. And, I mean, seriously, I just feel like maybe it's college kids, first game of the year and stuff. But really, the defenses right now are just too much for football teams. Texas, Ohio State, LSU, Clemson. These are low-scoring games. Even for the NFL standards, these are low-scoring games. And it's a trend. I don't even know because, I don't know if it's this next game. No, this is Utah-UCLA. Let's do this one first. Sorry, that's the final score. This was another game that was really low-scoring and defensive. Virginia Tech versus South Carolina. Now, I said South Carolina would win this one by a lot, Both of these teams have good quarterbacks returning, especially Lenore Sellers. I thought these teams were going to just explode offensively, but dude, it was the opposite. It was a low-scoring defensive game that was 5-7 at some point, and then like 8-10. It was a weird score. And honestly, Virginia Tech, dude, they played super, super good in this game. It was just they let that deep shot happen. First off, they allowed an 80-yard punt return. That kind of blew this game open, made it 8-17. Virginia Tech got a field goal on the board, but then they allowed that 64-yard touchdown pass. That was the dagger. Virginia Tech did such a good job of playing conservative, taking your points when it was given. They got that lovely safety, which was super nice. A 29-yard field goal probably could have gone for the first down, but they didn't. Took a field goal right before halftime, a 56-yarder. Took a field goal in the fourth. Made this game reasonable. If they didn't let up that 80-yard punt return, eventually somebody was going to have a super explosive offensive play. It just happened to be South Carolina. I feel like the 80-yard punt return was what really killed Virginia Tech in this game. And the only fourth down they went for was like on the last couple drives. Virginia Tech ultimately had more yards of offense. They just had more turnovers. They had 2 interceptions. 2 interceptions, which one of them put the game away. But let's see where they actually went for this fourth down, because that was technically a turnover over an interception, not a fourth down. So where is this failed fourth down conversion? Because I didn't really... Oh, maybe it counts as both because it was on fourth down and it was an interception. Maybe it just counts as both. Counts as a failed fourth down and an interception. I think that's what it was. So they turned the ball over twice. They didn't go for a single fourth down. I think if they don't let that punt return happen, Virginia Tech wins this game. And Virginia Tech is another scary football team. They've got a super good defense. And honestly, you're up against number 13. A lot of people think this South Carolina team is going to be super good. They obviously have a really good defense. Who says Virginia Tech doesn't do more in the ACC? I think they kind of make a big statement in the ACC. I think they end up being one of the better teams and pull off some big-time upsets. But let's go back up here to talk about this one. Utah at UCLA. Well, I don't know why I say Utah, but Utah at UCLA. Utah's the team to beat in the Big 12. I was kind of saving this. I could talk about ASU versus NAU all day long, but we need to talk about this game. Utah, UCLA. I said UCLA would win this game. I don't remember by what score, but all I said was Utah would win this game. That's all I said. Or UCLA would win this game. That's all I remember. That's not the case. UCLA was not performing well. They were just getting blown up. Nico looked like crap. UCLA looks like crap. And UCLA started to make it reasonable. They were down 23-10 or down 23-7. They made it 23-10, but they literally just could not stop Utah's offense. Devon Dampier went 21 for 25. And he also had 16 carries for 87 yards. He accounted for 300 yards of offense and 3 touchdowns. This team was just dominant. 500 total yards of offense. More of it was on the floor. 15 yards of penalties. No turnovers. Utah played the best football all week long. This was the best football. And I think Utah right now is the team to beat. Some people would argue Texas Tech. Any team that plays AR Pine Bluff can expect to get an absolute domination. All right. So I'm going to wait on Texas Tech so far. Baylor lost to Cincinnati. Kansas State lost to Iowa State and can barely beat North Dakota. TCU is yet to play. Kansas looks really good. They could also be a good contender. And Arizona State University. ASU really, really struggled, I'm not going to lie, against NAU. NAU had 331 total yards of offense. Yes, a lot of that came in poop time. But what really did it for me was 2 things. Sam Levitt threw an interception. Super uncharacteristic, or actually like multiple things, not 2 things. Sam Levitt threw an interception. Super uncharacteristic of him. But mainly because He had no time in the pocket, constantly under pressure, people flying into the backfield. He got sacked multiple times. There was no protection for him. No protection for him whatsoever. Um, 12 penalties, 93 yards, 3 more penalties than Kenny Dillingham has had in any game of his career, and it's against NAU. And overall, just penalties, bad offense, multiple penalties. I mean, just multiple penalties, no protection. NAU ended up scoring 19 points. One of the touchdowns came against a bunch of second strings. Sorry, I'm so stuffy right now. I do every time I make a video, it's like I sneeze and I just get all stuffy. I don't know what the deal is with this. I don't understand it because it's like once I start editing the video, which is like cut the first part and then cut the end, once I start like doing that, it just leaves. But when I'm making the video, I'm all stuffy. I don't understand, bro. But here's the other thing about ASU. We were 1 for 10 on third down conversions against NAU. Now, NAU is supposedly supposed to be really good in FCS football. They may actually finish off as one of the best teams in FCS football. That's what I'm hoping for because, honestly, ASU did not perform good. Now, we won 38-19. All right, that's a dominant score, a domination. A lot of people will give ASU crap, including me. ASU has a really good coaching staff, a really good head coach. They will most likely patch up these mistakes and fix the problems. It's week 1. This is where you learn things. But you've got a road game against Mississippi State. These things better get patched up because you cannot lose to Mississippi State. You can't. That is just, you cannot lose to Mississippi State. And I was going to say something else, but I forgot. In terms of the Big 12, right now it looks to me like Utah number 1. I would even say Iowa State number 2, ASU number 3, and Texas Tech number 4, Kansas number 5. That's what this conference looks like. We're yet to see TCU, of course, so that could change. But, like, seriously, ASU has a lot of stuff to patch up for being number 11. I see them going down in the AP poll. I see them going down. We have a brutal start to the schedule. If we don't start patching up our mistakes, we have obviously Mississippi State on the road. That doesn't look like it's going to be too bad anymore. At Baylor kind of sucked against Auburn, had really bad rush defense. TCU, we'll see how TCU plays at ASU. At Utah, good luck. Host Texas Tech, good luck. Houston, at Iowa State, good luck. I don't see how ASU, performing the way they did against NAU, wins those games. And mainly, another piece of this was a reason I was such a believer in ASU and I ranked them at number 6 was obviously because they're my team. But second, because we got 2 extremely good transfer receivers. You got Jaron Hamilton, redshirt freshman. They call him Turbo. He had played so good in every camp. Didn't get targeted once. You have Jalen Moss, transfer from Fresno State, super good, did not throw to him once. Where are these players? Where are these players? Why are we not throwing it to them? The only positive about this game was Jordan Tyson. I really think Jordan Tyson, I don't want to make an overstatement here over Jeremiah Smith, because after all, he played Texas, we played NAU, but Jordan Tyson right now looks like the best receiver. He was making some unbelievable catches, just absolutely ridiculous. 12 receptions, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. Some of the catches he was making were just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it was just unbelievable. But, I mean, you don't even, we saw Malik McClain. Oh, that was what I was going to say. The ASU had some explosions in this game where they took off for 75-yard chunk touchdowns and deep shots. They were making plays, but a lot of them got taken off because of penalties. That was what I wanted to say. There was times where ASU looked absolutely like the number 11 team in the country, but the penalties just kept on blowing us up. I also do really feel like the refs were super biased against ASU because, I wasn't freaking out or anything and, just looking to call out the refs for being shitters and hating on ASU like I would in a top 25 matchup. But seriously, They would throw a flag, and I would just be like, you've got to be kidding me. And it would replay it, and I would just be like, dude, where is the penalty? Like, it is the most minimal penalty ever, instantly thrown. But then there would be a deep shot to a receiver where the receiver's completely getting grabbed and tackled, and they don't throw a flag on the NAU guy. I'm like, so you will throw, if we touch their receiver, you will throw a flag. But if we get tackled to the floor, you will not throw a flag. I think the refs were really, really bad, personally. The announcer, of course, was trying to, reason with us, and he was making good points, reasonable points. But even then, sometimes he was just like, nah, man, like, that's just bad call. That's bad call. It was. Of course, you don't really get to see the penalties in the third quarter because it was a black screen and you couldn't see anything. But, you could hear him. And it was just, I don't know. I was not really impressed with ASU's performance, especially after NAU came out and said, ready to make history against ASU in 5 days, like the dumbasses they are. And then Sam Levitt replies and says, bet, you're just sitting down getting ready for a 700-yard performance by Sam Levitt. And, I mean, that interception was the worst interception I've ever seen. That was a Kyler Murray interception if I've ever seen one. He was under pressure off his back foot, heaved it down the field, and the safety just jumped and picked it off. That was all there was to it. It was such a bad interception. Of course, I won't hold it against Mr. Sam Levitt, but really, realistically, a lot of people don't think ASU will be any good because we don't have Cam Scatterbo. That kind of looks like the case. I mean, seriously, we were just getting destroyed. Our running backs, Raleek Brown, Kyson Brown, Udo didn't get any touches, but we have a really, really talented running back room. And there is a lot of potential for explosion, but the O-line has got to step up and start blocking people. They were just bringing the house every single time, constantly getting in the backfield. We couldn't do anything. The only form of production we had was screen passes because they would be sending so many people at us the whole time. The outsides were just getting destroyed. Now, that is ASU's strong point. Our screen passes are really, really dominant. That was the case in a lot of games this year. They had our receivers block super good, and we have explosive, great eyesight players on the outside. That was where we were getting most of our production, and we've got multiple people that can catch the swing passes and the screen passes. Jordan Tyson, Raleek Brown, Kyson Brown. We've got multiple players that did really good. I just wish we would have seen more from the offense. Now, they said they weren't going to hide any plays. I think they hit plays. That's why I think Jaron Hamilton and Jalen Moss weren't targeted. I think they were hiding stuff. Whether ASU wanted, Kenny Dillingham wanted to or not, I think we were hiding plays. That's what I think was going on. Either that or Sam Levitt is just way too heavy set on throwing the ball to Tyson every time. I don't know. Enough about ASU. I just wanted to throw that in there. Because whatever, move past this. And the final game of today was this one, Notre Dame at Miami. I said way too many points for Miami. But, I mean, Miami was definitely the better football team here. Jeremiah Love was absolutely limited to a nothing performance. The quarterback, however, for Notre Dame definitely impressed me more than I thought he would. He did way better than I thought. And they really held into this game. It was a close competitive game for the most part, but entering the second half, Miami started to pull away 21-7. Notre Dame made it reasonable, but then they kicked a field goal. It looked like things were going to get out of hand, but then they tied it. And then Miami, of course, kicked field goal, which was enough to put them away. Carson Beck did really good. Carson Beck's post-game interview was kind of interesting. On the field, he's like, they're talking to him and stuff, and I'm like, oh, what does this idiot have to say? And he's like, the first thing he said was, I'm just so happy I found this group of boys. They made me love football again. I was kind of like, damn. Was he really just, like, not happy at Georgia, and that's why he was playing so bad? Did he just not like the environment? He just didn't like the coach. He, didn't like the players. Now he's at Miami, and he's, like, happy again. He's going to start playing better. Is that really what we did? And after all, like, the way people talk about him and stuff online, it's like, dude, maybe we're a bit too hard on him. But, I mean, after all, he's getting paid millions and stuff, so who cares? But seriously, maybe Carson Beck is going to have a much better year. Against Notre Dame, who's got one of the best defenses in the country, he did get bailed out on that one-handed catch, but still, 2 for 31, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's a really good stat line against Notre freaking Dame. But the really big key here was they were able to run the ball extremely well. I was not expecting that, but also Notre Dame had 2 turnovers. Miami had 1. It was a failed 4th down conversion. And, yeah, good win for Miami. Didn't really get to watch much of that game because I came home from my shift and I went to sleep. And I woke up and watched the final drive of the game. That was it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like and subscribe and help a comment. Always helps. That's all for me. Adios.